Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. One of our favorite archetypes to make fun of on this channel is the Edgelord. The Edgelord is one of the quintessential players in the world of RPG horror stories. But why do we see these players again and again? I personally think it comes from an innate human desire to rebel. Edgelords don't work office jobs, and edgelords don't need to pay child support. Edgelords don't need to wake up in the morning, look at themselves in the mirror, and hate what they see staring back. Edgelords choose to hate themselves because it's badass. One could argue that everyone has this innate desire to rebel. Hell, even I had an edgy phase where I mostly wore black and listened to angry metal music. But now that I've grown older, I choose to rebel by committing tax fraud, like a mature adult. I still listen to metal music though. Today's story revolves around a player who unironically built one of the most edgy character concepts I have ever seen, only to get upset when the rest of the party laughs at him. Yes, dear listener, there is not a single drop of self-awareness to be seen in this story. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG-Horror-Stories. Enjoy. This story is titled, How to Be So Stereotypically Edgy It Becomes Hilarious. I'm part of a dedicated Discord server, where numerous DMs run all sorts of drop-in campaigns. Many of them are pretty lax in mechanics and don't require builds nearly as detailed as the most traditional TTRPGs. For some of them, all the characters can be fit on a single spreadsheet. Despite how much simpler these systems can be, bad apples appear just as often. This story covers a player who made a character so over-the-top edgy and cliché that they unintentionally became the most hilarious character in the session. To start things off, this particular campaign is about a government-mandated organization of superheroes. Superpowers in this world are birthed by tragic events. Well, gee, no wonder you're getting edgelords. That's like covering your naked body in honey and then complaining when ants bite your dick. So what we had to do was write a backstory to the DM, and he would determine our character's powers based off of that. So we were required by rules to make characters with tragic backstories. But some went further with this than others. One in particular went full edgelord. Me. I was playing a street brawler type character called Rosso Finnegan. The gist of his backstory is that his little sister was brutally assaulted by a pack of bullies that he had beaten up in the past. His power was that he could discharge bursts of electricity from his hands and feet. Cole, the self-appointed dad of the group. His character was a hacker who dug too deep into the dark web and got his family murdered as a result. He is able to manipulate concrete. Wonka, a younger character. The specifics behind her aren't as known as the rest, but she was pretty much a stab-happy child. Katana. Everything about this character was cliché. She grew up in a monastery that was burned down for no evident reason. She refuses to give people her actual name and insists on using an alias instead. She's fully Japanese, even though the campaign implicitly takes place in the United States, and wields a katana. Her power? She gains a power surge the more blood she spills with her katana, and her hair turns more red the more she gets. Yeah. Others. There were a few other players present at the session, though most of them weren't directly involved with Katana's shenanigans. Only Cole, Wonka, and I directly interacted with her. DM. The DM of the campaign. Generally laid back and operates on a rule-of-fun basis. But as this story proves, there are limits to what he'll allow. The first session starts off modestly enough. We are all picked up from our homes by recruiters and are being driven to the compound in a truck. Most of us spend this time describing our characters to the others who are present. We arrive at the compound and sign 3-year contracts agreeing to do superhero work for the government. We hop in the truck again and are taken to a training area where we meet a guy with cloning powers. This is just a brief introduction session where we freely pulverize the clones he creates to demonstrate our powers to the rest of the party. The truck opens and out steps Katana, decked out in a kimono and armed with her katana. Training guy creates a clone and asks who wants to go first. Ross volunteers to start, but without conversing with anyone else, Katana marches right up to the clone and starts dicing it up with her katana. Bleed our sick, and suffer like my master on that horrible night. The first words physically spoken by her to what was functionally a training dummy. She was lightly called out for not waiting her turn by Ross and Cole, and the brawler stepped up for his turn. We gave his set of clones a no-holds-barred beatdown with punches, headlocks, and head slams. One by one, people would begin taking their turns after him. Then it was Katana's turn. Everyone else only asked for about 2 or 3 clones, while Katana requested an entire army. Not even the host so much as knew her name at this point, and she was immediately shot down. Ross mocks her in character for being arrogant. She goes to town on her set of clones, capping it off by doing that classic move where someone gets rapidly sliced up and explodes into gore just as Katana sheaths, well, her katana. Somehow she didn't get a drop of blood on her kimono. Katana. Now then, you may all call me by my sword's name until I can trust you with my real name. Ross. We're under a government contract. You're kinda bound by law to give 'em your real name, lady. Other guy. How the f*** do we tell what the name of your sword is? Clone Man. More importantly, why are you so strangely fixated with your sword? Seems like cause for concern. Katana. It's a katana. What do you mean by the name of my sword? Ross. You just told us to call you by the name of your sword, and now you're saying it doesn't have a name? Katana. Look, its name is... what is it with Edgelords and making me pronounce Japanese shit? Tsumagari Muramasa. Close enough. Ross. Right, and what was your actual name? Pretty sure it's a big no-no to sign government contracts with a fake alias. Katana. I do not care. I am not telling you my name. After that brief spat, the rest of the group took their turns, showing off their powers. Up came Wonka's turn, and she went crazy. Pulling a knife out, she practically blitzed the clone made for her, and stabbed the thing repeatedly, creeping out pretty much everyone, including the guy who was testing us in the first place. Ross basically stuffed an entire carton of cigarettes into his mouth to get his mind off of that little display. And Katana? Katana. Yes, you did very good. Murdering people so gruesomely is very wonderful. Cole, do not encourage her. Katana. Why not encourage? Humans are a dreadful species after all. Cole, keep your opinions to yourself. These kids will promise psychological rehabilitation. The last thing we need is for them to associate murder with praise. As Cole takes his turn smashing clones under concrete, let's pause this tale to examine Katana's actions thus far. Pretty much everything she has said or done so far is stereotypical edgelord shit. She's a Japanophiliac, needlessly mysterious, nihilistic. Cole and I were practically busting a gut in DMs while we were laughing over how stereotypically edgy this character was. So one thing that I see a lot in the comment section of my videos are people who are terrified of becoming a stereotype like Katana here. Overall, I would say that it's not really something to worry about. Most people who enjoy this sort of content laugh and poke fun at these kinds of stories because they're a spectacle. They almost never happen at any actual D&D table. Besides, building a cliché can be really fun. There's a reason that the big dumb barbarian, bookish wizard, horny bard, and edgy rogue are all memes in the community. Because they're fun to play as and fun to have in your party. Most of the time. If you're worried about the character you're making, take time to ask yourself, would I enjoy being in the same party as this character? If the answer is yes, you're golden. If the answer is no, talk with your DM and table mates, so you can all try to figure out what character that everyone can have fun with. Now that that's done, let's go ahead and get back to laughing at Edgelords. Once everyone was finished, the cloning hero laid out the terms for us. We could either do work as solo heroes, or we could form teams with one another. Cole immediately wanted to form a team with Ross, Wonka, and another child character. Ironically enough, Katana wanted to form a team too, with Wonka. Cole, who takes it upon himself to be the surrogate father of anyone sufficiently younger than him, naturally wanted Katana as far away from Wonka as possible. Ross, meanwhile, doesn't want to be associated with any of the murders he is certain Katana and Wonka would commit. He chose to operate solo. It was at this point that the argument to set it in stone would begin. Katana:
They should join me. I could teach them how to kill and use their powers better. Unlike you, who will only weaken her and tell her lies that it's gonna be alright.
Ross: Why would anyone follow you when you don't trust anyone enough to even give your actual name? Cole: You are going to further damage her psychologically. I actually plan to give the kids the emotional psychological support and care that they need, unlike you. Katana:
They would probably end up just like me, and I'm a very suitable woman.
Ross: What? Nihilistic, distrustful, and completely up your own ass? Katana:
Besides, you just plan to keep all candy away from her, don't you? If it means you can, what you call, fix them?
Cole: There is a time and place for treats. Let me guess, you plan on spoiling her until her teeth fall out. Katana:
Why wouldn't I? As long as she does a good job killing, she can have all the chocolate and candy in the world.
Cole: So, you do not care about her. You only care about the fact that she can kill. Katana:
Nah, if I only cared about that, I would have killed her already. Truth is, she reminds me of myself when I was young before I met my master. Heh, well, before he died thanks to those freaks. But do not worry, they're all dead now.
And how did Wonka decide whose team she would be with? She asked them both what kind of candy they liked. Cole said strawberry rock candy. Ross and Clone Guy on the side said Sour Patch Kids and caramel jawbreakers. Respectively, Katana said blood chocolate. Cue gags from everyone else who was present. Wonka picked Cole, of course, but also gave Ross points for saying Sour Patch Kids. Katana's hair turned scarlet red. Katana:
What's wrong? Can't handle two frickin' insane people? Oh well, I can see why.
Ross made another passing remark on how Katana was allowed into this deal, which prompted her to walk over to him and request that he be his partner instead. After being weirded out by her the entire session, Ross proceeds to go off on a massive rant. Ross: Fuck no! You're so over-the-top dark that I actually want to pray to Jesus! Your edge makes me feel like every word you speak slits my throat little by little. You haven't said one thing today that hasn't already been said in some shonen manga made for preteen boys. You make me envy the deaf and the blind. Katana's best response to this was to slice the cigarette that Ross was smoking and remark,
"It's bad to smoke, you know."
before leaving to go butcher some more clones to let off some steam. Clone Guy begins dropping exposition to the party about the various facilities available throughout the compound, before asking for questions. Ross asks how the process of finding and capturing villains works. Katana:
"Asking how we detain evil. Isn't it obvious? We kill them or we die as cannon fodder. That's the real goal here."
Ross: "Oh, sure. Rob a bank, get a katana in your gut. Flawless logic right there. Why don't we punish all crimes with death?" Katana:
"I'm going to be the strongest one here. And when that happens, I'm going to cut down all of those who make me suffer. Only my master believed in me. So now I have to make the world believe in me again."
I'm having way too much fun with this stupid fucking story. Ross: "Right. Have you ever considered that maybe people don't want a hero that kills everyone in their way?" Katana:
"I never signed up to be a hero. Because we are not heroes. We're soldiers. We are not to think about when or why, but to do and die."
Cue more laughter in the DMs from me and Cole. We were in awe at how ridiculously edgy she was being. Like, we both know that the campaign required each character to have something tragic happen to them, but you didn't need to go full-on edgelord like this. At this point, Katana went from merely being a hilariously over-the-top edgelord to a traditional entitled that guy. While everyone else was getting up to various activities around the compound, Katana was attempting to renovate the entire girls' wing into Oriental Japanese-style rooms, with sliding doors and paper walls and all of that. Later on, she tried to add the boys' wing as well. She somehow wanted to add a hot spring, too. As soon as the DM realizes what she's doing, he shuts her down hard. Where did she even get the stuff to do all this construction? She tried to say the equipment room, only for it to be pointing out that Ross needs 5 hours just to get a pair of knuckle dusters. In a now deleted post, Katana proceeded to rant about how she was just going to do her room. That was that, and it didn't matter how long it would take her to remodel. DM has none of it and calls her out for not knowing the limits of what she's allowed to do. This guy tends to let his players pull off some crazy schemes, but trying to force her preference for Japanese things onto everyone else is where he draws the line. Katana just deletes her previous post and goes AFK for the rest of the session. This wasn't the first time Katana has been disruptive and annoying to DMs. In a campaign based on Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, they decided to use the protagonist from the actual game, and ignored the DM when they told him to switch, since it made them more unique. In a campaign about building a nation out of a small village, they completely ignored the plot to go and try and be a pirate instead. Low expectations were already abound when they joined this game, but this beat out everything else that they had already done. It's hard to do worse than making a character so edgy they become ridiculous, and then trying to make everyone else conform to their tastes as well. So then I dulled the edge with a quick round of Animal Crossing. How Katana hasn't been kicked or banned yet is a riddle for the ages. TLDR. Player uses a superhero campaign that requires tragic backstories to make such a ridiculous and stereotypical edgelord that it becomes funny instead of anything gritty. Tries to turn the living quarters of the party into a Japanese inn and gets angry when denied. End of story. So it's pretty safe to assume that I decided to have a lot of fun with this one. But all jokes aside, the moral of this story should be obvious. It's not that cliches are bad, but forcing your own tastes onto the rest of the party is bad. I swear, nothing can be more irritating than a player who just won't let you play the character that you want to play. And you don't need me to tell you not to be a katana. To be honest, I don't really know why edgelords and weebs have such a hard-on for the katana anyway. It's a garbage sword when compared to weapons made by other cultures during the same time period. Trust me, when you have a personality like mine, you get used to people trying to stab you. So I know a thing or two about quality bladed weaponry. Now, before the weeaboos descend on my comment section to complain about me being a sword heretic, let's take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake. This week's fan art is done by viewer Midnight Wonder, and depicts her tabaxi bard regaling her friends with tales of legendary horror story YouTubers. Featuring Critical Kunik, Crit Crab, All Things D&D, Foxy Bard, Crow's Perch, Z Flocko, and this fucking asshole. Thank you again, Midnight Wonder, for submitting your art. If you want to see your artwork featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me. I want to take this time to thank everyone who has submitted their fan art to the channel. It still feels pretty surreal that I'm able to make content that people enjoy so much that they make fan art of it. So, thank you to all of the artists I've featured so far, and all of the artists I will feature in the future. Gallery of the Drake has been a huge success for building this community, and we couldn't have done it without you. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.